Today's card is a Christmas card featuring the Tim Holtz Sizzix 2023 Christmas dies, and I'm using the Trimmetry Colorize as well as the Big Tidings dies for today. I'm also using a bunch of stamps from the stamp collection that I have recently acquired. And so if you've been following me for any amount of time, you know that I have a large collection that I got from a friend, and it's really monetarily not worth much at all, but it is worth a lot as far as being a wonderful art supply. And so I decided to start using it in my makes, and this is the first one that I made. So this is a joy card using the Tim Holtz Sizzix Christmas release. So let's go ahead and get started making, and then when I finish, we'll talk about all of the details on this card and what I love about it. So let's get making. For this project, you basically only need 2 dies. I'm using the Big Tidings die set. I think this is a really cool die set because I just love the large size of the greetings. And so the size of the Noel is large enough that it really will only fit on an A2 card that is sideways or horizontal. And then the Joy will fit on an A2 card either way, vertically or horizontally. Then they have just these fun shapes that can go with them, or they can be used alone. And I also like the fact that you can use the shadow or you can use the word just by itself. So I'm going to be using this today. And then I'm also going to be using the Trimmetry Colorize. And this is a detailed die. However, I'm not using it as a colorized die today. I'm actually using it just this shape today for this project. So I'll do colorize for a different project that I have in mind, but for today's, I am just using the large shape to cut out. All right, so those are the dies you're going to need. You're also going to need some paper, and then we'll get into a few other things that you're going to want to have to make today's project. So I'm inviting you to come along and join with me as we get making. Now you can use any patterned paper that you want for this project, but in lieu of patterned paper, for me, I decided that I wanted to use some old stamps that I have kind of inherited from a family friend. So we had this stamp collection appraised, and it wasn't worth any monetary value as a collection. So there weren't any stamps that were really worth anything, you know, as a single stamp or something like that. But it was worthwhile for our friend in the sense that she just absolutely loved the stamps and the artistry of them and things like that, and collecting them. So they did their job, and they were, you know, worth a great deal because of that. But these really are worth more if I use them in art and some things like that. So I decided that I was just going to get started doing that. So I went through some of the stamps and pulled out a bunch of red and green stamps and decided that I was going to use them on this project instead of patterned paper. So again, use what you have. But I thought, you know, if you do have stamps, for those of you that have some stamps, this might be something you could do. Or I do know that Tim has a set, stamp set that is postage stamps in all different styles. And so you could, you know, kind of go through with all a bunch of different greens and a bunch of different reds and stamp those out, and then, you know, cut them out, and you'd be good to go with that as well. So let me show you what I did. With the red ones, I pulled them and I cut some of them in half horizontally and some of them in half vertically. And then I put them around a 5x7 card base. So that's what this is. I did leave the corner stamps whole because I'm going to be putting my card front on here. And so I needed the stamp to go all the way across and all the way down. So that's why the corners are whole. So if you are using stamps, that's something that you can do. I also wanted to not just waste the whole stamp by having most of it under the edge all the way around, so that's why I went ahead and cut them in half so that I could still save them. I don't want to you know, waste them if I don't, you know, need to use them. So this is going to be the base of the card. As you can see, it opens up. Then I'm going to put over it, I used this base die from the Trimetry Colorize, and I cut out my card front with it. I haven't quite decided what I'm going to do with this card front yet, and I may end up getting out that stamp set that Tim has and just doing something light in a gray or an antique linen or an old paper or something like that. But something that's not going to take, you know, be too much of a pattern. So I'll do something on this. Haven't quite figured out what it is. I was going to emboss it with the sparkle texture fade, but it's not as big as my card front, so I won't be embossing it. So as you can see, cutting those in half and then leaving the corners whole makes for a great matte reveal all the way around. And then you can see there's nothing going on in the center, so that's where I took my green stamps from around the world. And I love this one of Queen Elizabeth. This is a Scottish stamp, postage stamp from December of 1965. So I thought that was great that it said December. So I kind of put these in a tree shape because this is going to go behind this like that so that we can see the December. And then it will go on here. And then for the focal point or the greeting, I used some more red stamps and just put them on a piece of heavy stock. And the way that I got these to stick down is I just collaged them with Distress Collage Medium, put some collage medium on there, and then I would lay them out and just press them in with my hand, and we're good to go. So with this one, I'm going to be cutting the word joy from the Big Tidings. I'll cut that out, and then you can see there's extras up here. I'm going to be cutting the berries from the holly, so I'll cut a few berries, and I also have some extra green ones that I put on this piece of watercolor cardstock, and I'll be cutting the holly leaves out of this so that I can have some holly leaves here and there, and then the word joy will go across here, and that will be pretty much everything that I have that I want for this card. I think that's where I'm going with it. So let me get started cutting this out and then figuring out what I want to do with this white space around the tree, cutting out the holly, and when we come back, I will be able to start assembling for you. All right, well, here's the finished product. And as you can see, those little half stamps and the whole stamp around the edge, just love that. Absolutely love how the stamps and the edges of the stamps and the postmarks on the stamps all give the joy die such character. Now, I did not cut out the shadow because I wanted the tree to show through underneath. So I cut 3 of the joys. I cut the one with the stamps, and then I cut 2 out of black heavy stock, and I just put one kind of this way a little bit and one that way a little bit. So it gave the impression that there's a shadow, but it didn't cover up all of this in the background so that I could see the tree and I could see those beautiful green stamps that I wanted to see. Now, obviously, I didn't use the colorized die as a colorize. I just used the tree shape. And you know what? Sometimes that's okay. You don't have to use everything in a die. Sometimes you can just use the shape, and that's what I did. So I just cut the shape out, made sure that my green stamps filled enough of the space that I could see it through the spot. Leota absolutely loves this card. And then I used some extra green stamps and red stamps to cut the holly and the holly berries from the joy and to put those on there. And then the background here, this card is a 5x7 card, and so it was too big for me to fit in any of the background 3D texture fades, which is what I had kind of planned on doing, but it just wasn't working out. So I just used some of the postage stamps and just stamped them here and there in antique linen. And then I went over the edges of the mixed media cardstock with the antique linen as well. And I just thought I would tell you, you might be able to see I used 2 layers of the mixed media heavy stock so that it was nice and heavy, and it gives some dimension to the card. And then at the top, I just paper clipped an extra red stamp that I had. And I just think this is wonderful. I love the pattern of the stamps and just the detail and the interest that they give. So this is one of my favorite cards I've made in a long time, and I really love it. So I hope that you enjoy it too. As always, if you're looking for any of the products that I used to make this card, except for the stamps, you can find them in my description for this video or on my blog post. And I hope that this inspired you. I want to thank you so much for watching this quick tutorial on card making, and I want to wish you a very creative day. And so does Leota. So go out there and have a creative day.